Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. We cover everything Major League, from spring training to the World Series. We've got your favorite club covered, from New York to Boston to LA. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast.
What is up? Welcome into the GSMC Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Dougherty. It is a Monday here. And as always, this show is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Got a lot for you today on this Monday show, as we have to recap the week in Major League Baseball action. We had some big stuff happen this weekend. We had our first no-hitter of the season. Sean Manaea of the Oakland Athletics did actually no-hit the Boston Red Sox, the scorching hot Boston Red Sox, who actually hold the best record in the league. They still do, but they were unable to reach base via a hit on Saturday night in Oakland, as Manaea had his best stuff going, and he earned the first no-no of the season. We'll be getting to that likely in the second segment. I'll give you my thoughts on some stuff that happened during that game. I was lucky enough to watch most of that game, and especially the end there, out there at the Coliseum in Oakland. So we're going to recap this first segment. We're going to recap the weekend, go through Friday, Saturday, Sunday of all these nice games that we had. Some good series over the weekend. We had a Dodgers National Series. I know I highlighted a couple of their starts on Friday during that show. Some more news to go over. We had another Major League record, kind of a quirky Major League record, broken yesterday in Anaheim. Brandon Belt had a 21 pitch at bat, breaking a previous record that was set back in 1997. That was a 20 pitch at bat. Him and Jose Barria of the Anaheim Angels, Los Angeles Angels, went 21 pitches. I think he had 16 foul balls that broke a Major League record. The bat lasted about 13 minutes long. So, for all you baseball nuts out there that like those quirky little stats, quirky little records, but I mean, there's been a lot of baseball games. We've had a lot of baseball games in our history here, as Major League Baseball has had a lot of different at bats, and none longer than 21 pitches. Well, none longer, but than 20 pitches before yesterday. So that's pretty cool. As it was the longest at bat we've ever seen. All right, we're going to jump right into it here in this first segment. Talking about the games that went on over the weekend and on Friday. Like I said, we talked about the big start coming up that night. On Friday night, it was Scherzer and Kershaw out in Los Angeles. Max Scherzer was able to outduel Clayton Kershaw in the battle of three-time Cy Young Award winners. Scherzer fan 9, and Kershaw got kind of roughed up in the first inning. He gave up 2 first-inning runs. They kind of set the tone for that game. Dodgers could not get on the board till the 6th inning, and I'll give you the lines for those each starter there. As Kershaw went 7 innings, allowed 4 runs on 9 hits, did strike out 4, and Scherzer went allowed 1 run on 4 hits, walked 3, and struck out 9 in 6 innings. Yeah, Kershaw went a little longer, but did give up those 2 runs in the first inning, and then ended up giving 4 over the course of his start. No home runs in that game, as the Nationals got the win 5-2. Continuing on, we had a big walloping of the Rockies as the Cubs went into Colorado for the first game of a 3-game series in Denver at Coors Field, and they beat them 16-2. A couple home runs for the Cubs. Javier Baez hit his 6th, and Kyle Schwarber hit his 4th of the season. Cal Hendricks got the win, went 5 innings, allowed 3 runs on 5 hits, 6 strikeouts to give up a home run to Nolan Arenado in the first inning. So Cubs still rolling. They're trying to get back into that top spot in the National League Central Division standings, as the St. Louis Cardinals actually jumped into that first spot right now. Cubs sitting in 4th. They're now 1 game over 500, but like I said last week, it's a little early talking about stats, but I'm just kind of giving, standings. Just going to give you a little perspective on where everybody is sitting at right now. All right, some of those other ones we had a Justin Verlander start out in Chicago. Astros beating up on the White Sox. Verlander very, very nice again, as the Astros were able to cruise on by the White Sox 10-0. Verlander went 6 innings only, allowing 2 hits, no runs on 2 hits, 5 strikeouts, 3 walks, as he lowered his ERA to 1.10. We'll get to some ERA leaders as I get to the end of this segment here. We had our Major League leader in ERA go on Sunday, and I'll just let you know who that is when we get there. All right, on Friday we had a walk-off in Detroit, as the Royals dropped that one to the Tigers 3-2 in 10. I believe it was Jacoby Jones hit a walk-off home run in the bottom of the 10th inning to give the Tigers that win out there at Comerica Park. And we're going to go over to New York. The Yankees dropped the first game of a 3-game set to the Toronto Blue Jays. Actually, I think they came back and won the next 2. We'll go over those games in just a moment. Yeah, the Yankees dropped the first one 8-5. That was the starter. That was a Sonny Gray start. Sonny only lasted 3 1/3 innings, allowed 5 runs on 5 hits, walked 4, and gave up a home run to to Hernandez. So he was faced off against Marco Estrada, who got the run support. I mean, he went 5 innings, also allowed 5 runs on 7 hits. This one, it did give up 3 home runs to the Yankees, as Austin, Stanton, and Aguilar all went deep, but it was not enough to beat the Blue Jays on Friday. Estrada gets the win. Only went 5, so he got qualified for the win, but the team did bail him out there, giving him some good run support. In Tampa Bay, another walk-off game for you there in 10 innings. The Rays were able to walk off the Minnesota Twins on a fielding error by the pitcher, and the winning run scored there in the bottom of the 10th inning to give the Rays a win at home in Tropicana Field over in Cleveland. The pitching performance I was definitely highlighting on Friday was the 2 young stars, Trevor Bauer and Dylan Bundy, went at it. Actually, that game was in Baltimore. It was the Indians versus the Orioles over at Camden Yards. Dylan Bundy outdueled Trevor Bauer. Bundy went 6 innings, allowed 1 run on 5 hits, 9 strikeouts, did walk 2. And then Bauer went 7, allowed 3 runs on 5 hits, walked 3, struck out 6. Did give up a home run to Manny Machado in the 4th inning, which pretty much sealed his fate right there, as the Orioles were able to slip by. That was the tie the game up, and then give 2 more runs in there in the 5th, as Bundy outdueled his fellow young pitcher in Trevor Bauer there out at Camden Yards. All right, getting over to the Angels as they continue to roll on in the American League West. However, they did have an interleague series going this weekend out at home at Angel Stadium. They have the Giants coming in. The Giants were able to take Game 1, backing of 3 home runs, actually. They just brought up one of their top or bigger prospects, one of their big guys who is actually hitting pretty well in the minor leagues. Mac Williamson came up. He hit a home run in his first start there for the Giants. Jeff Samardzija was coming back off the DL, pitched pretty well, went 5 innings, got the win, did not allow a run on 2 hits, walked 4, struck out 4. So Jeff Samardzija, nice, good sign for the Giants as they try to get healthy there in their rotation, especially as they're still waiting on just the one more guy. Happens to be Madison Bumgarner, but they are waiting for him to come back. Andrew Heaney went 4 1/3 innings, gave up 7 runs on 6 hits, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, gave up 3 home runs. McCutchen and Nick Hundley also went deep for the Giants there on Friday night. All right, some other performances on Friday. We had Ivan Nova go for the pitchers duel out there in Philadelphia, as Ivan Nova was outdueled by the Phillies. Glenn Lively, the righty Ben Lively, went 6 innings, allowed 1 run on 5 hits, did strike out 4, walked 3, but Nova was outdueled. It was the bullpen who ended up giving up. Nova only allowed 1 run as well on 5 hits, also went 6, struck out 3, didn't walk 1 batter. He didn't walk anybody. So A little tough luck right there for Ivan Novas. Both guys took the no decision as it was decided. That game was decided later in the game. The Phillies went scoring a run in the 8th to get that win out there. As the Phillies, we're going to talk about the Phillies a little bit probably in the third segment, talking about teams that are just making some surprise. They've been pretty much cellar dwellers the last few years, as they now they're 7 games over 500 right now. So we'll get talking about them probably in the third segment. We're going to talk about some surprise teams that we're going to speculate and decide if they are going to keep it going over the course of this long season. All right, getting to any other games I want to talk about on Friday. Not really. Okay, we're going to go over to Saturday games where we had our first no-hitter of the season out in Oakland. As I talked about at the beginning of the segment, Sean Manaea for the A's. He did go the distance, not allowing a hit. We'll talk about that a lot more into the detail in the next segment about some stuff that went on out there in Oakland if nobody was able to see it. I know it was a Red Sox game, but it did go late into the night out there on the East Coast, so maybe not everybody was able to do that. But another great pitching performance out in Baltimore as Mike Clevenger pitched his first complete game. He only allowed 2 hits, no runs, in 9 innings of work as he beat the Baltimore Orioles. The Indians did 4-0. Clevenger, 9 innings, no runs on 2 hits, walked 2, struck out 2, so he was very economical there, only throwing 89 pitches, or actually no, 107 pitches, still pretty good in 9 innings. 107 pitches in 9 innings is very nice. Was definitely getting pitching to contact in that game, only allowing 2 hits, so... But, I mean, he was outdueled, I guess. He was outdone by Sean Manaea. We'll get to that one and talk about his line. We'll talk more about it in the next segment, like I said. All right, another game out in Chicago as the Astros again drubbed. This time the White Sox were actually able to scratch across a run, but the Astros did put up 10 once again on the poor White Sox pitching. Astros lineup is just absolutely loaded. Dallas Keuchel did go 6 innings, allowed 1 run on 4 hits, walked 2, struck out 6, gave up a home run. That was the 1 run he gave up, and that was to Thompson in the 5th inning. Nothing really else going there. J.J. Redick had 2 home runs in that game. That's if you want, just a note there for your fantasy applications. We got J.J. Redick on their fantasy team. All right, continuing on. Another nice game for the Rays. Is the Rays same kind of score as the game before I just talked about, 10-1. Rays beat the Twins. Another nice pitching performance. Aaron Snell, the left-hander for the Rays. He's got a good Blake Snell. He's been very good this year. He's 3-1 now. Has lowered his ERA to 2.54 as he went 7 innings, only allowed 1 run on 5 hits. As the Rays were able to take care of the Twins, as they actually did I will talk about the rest of that. I mean, I have to go to the next game. They got a sweep in that series. They won that game on Sunday in very spectacular fashion. But yeah, Snell struck out 6, did not walk any in that start for the Rays. All right, as we continue on here on Saturday, anything else to talk about? We had the Dodgers and Nationals go again. Hyun-Jin Ryu pitched very well, outdoing Steven Strasburg actually in that game out there in Los Angeles, as the Nationals were not able to score a run. I think Ryu went 7 shutout innings. Strasburg not so much, as the Dodgers were able to touch him up a little bit and got the win 4-0 in that game. Strasburg took the loss in that one, as they will now continue their road trip up to San Francisco starting today, Monday in SF. Ryu went 7 innings, allowed no runs on 2 hits, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts for Ryu, the left-hander for the Dodgers. Strasburg also went 7 innings, but allowed 2 runs on 5 hits, 2 walks, did strike out 10, but gave up a couple homers. One to Jock Peterson and one to Kike Hernandez. The Dodgers actually did hit 3 home runs. Cody Bellinger hit his 3rd in the 8th inning for Los Angeles. All right, we're going to get to Sunday now as we come to the end of this first segment. Just quickly going through these games on Sunday. Johnny Cueto, the MLB leader in ERA, went for the Giants out in Anaheim against the Angels, got another win, his second win of the season. Now he's 2-0, dropped his ERA to 3.35 as he remains the leader in the clubhouse. Well, not in the clubhouse quite yet, but remains the leader in the league in all Major League Baseball with a .35 ERA. Went 6 innings, did not allow a run on 2 hits, 7 strikeouts, walked 2, as he had a no-hitter, I believe, through 5. For the Angels, they had to do a little spot starter. I said Jose Barria, who had that long at bat with Brandon Belt. I think he threw almost 50 pitches in the first inning. So he only lasted about two innings as the Angels bullpen took the brunt of the load. They used 6 more pitchers to pitch the rest of those 7 innings. The Giants were able to get the win. They got home runs from Brandon Belt, who did homer in his second at bat, and Evan Longoria, who hit his 4th. Belt hit his 5th of the season. Giants got the win there 4-2 as they will now come back home after a long road trip and play the Nationals back at AT&T Park starting tonight. All right, Houston, another win as they continue to roll on through. They roll on through Chicago, south side of Chicago. Another blowout win there. They got 7-1 win. Lance McCullers Jr. pitched very well, went 6 innings, allowed only 1 run on 8 hits, struck out 3, walked 1. All right, that walk-off I was talking about in the spectacular fashion, I'll touch on that really quick. The Rays were able to come back and win their game 8-6 on a walk-off home run, an absolute bomb by Gomez there in the bottom of the 9th, winning that one 8-6. All right, Carlos Gomez, he knew he hit that one out, so go watch the highlight of that one. That was a pretty impressive home run to win the game there in Tampa Bay. All right, that'll wrap it up for this first segment. We're going to talk about Sean Manaea when we come back and that no-hitter out in Oakland and some question marks that were around it, but it was a no-hitter. Mark it in the books, everybody. Red Sox got no hit. That's what snapped their 8-game winning streak, and we'll talk about that when we come back.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
All right, welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast. That first segment, we kind of just recapped the weekend, went over some key games, and I went over some pitching performances and different lines that we had over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Some good series out there in Major League Baseball. Is now in the second segment, we're going to talk pretty much to this whole segment. We're going to fill it up with Sean Manaea, the first no-hitter for this 2018 season, and I mean, if you're going to put your money on it, I don't think this one would have been one you would have thought to do, as it was the Red Sox and the A's, who actually, the A's, just a quick note, they took 2 out of 3 from the Red Sox, so you got to feel good if you're an A's fan out there in Oakland, as they've won 5 of the last 6 after coming off a sweep of the White Sox. All right, in this homestand, doing pretty good, so good for the A's there, as they took 2 out of 3 from the league-leading Red Sox. They still remain, though, at, I believe, 17-4 on the season. All right, so going into this no-hitter here, I know Jonathan Lucroy, the catcher for the A's, who actually just signed there in Oakland as the season started, he came out and said this was one of the best, if not, this was the best pitching performances he's ever caught in his life, and he's caught over 800 games in his career, so that's got to be saying something other than the fact that the guy threw no-hitter. But, Sean and I had pretty much everything going. Fortunately, being out here, I was able to watch that game. And, he was pitching pretty well. I mean, he was mixing his stuff. He was locating his fastball early in the count. He was keeping the Red Sox. But, I mean, the Red Sox lineup, that's nothing to be a lot to be afraid of. I mean, a lot to write home about as well. But there are no slouches there in that Red Sox lineup. I mean, Mookie Betts, who I've been talking about, I think I talked about a lot on that Friday show, the fact that he could be an MVP candidate. I mean, he's hitting now well over 360 right now in the season still. Then you got Benintendi, a solid lefty, Henry Ramirez, J.D. Martinez, Eduardo Nunez, Rafael Devers, Sandy Leon, Jackie Bradley Jr., and then they had their shortstop on Saturday was Tzu-Wei Lin. So he was, they had the pretty A lineup out there right now out there on Saturday for the Red Sox, and nobody could get a hit. And we'll get into the fact that there were a couple instances where they could have gotten a hit. There was definitely a pop-up out there in shallow left center field. If you go watch the highlight, the pop-up, because the Red Sox did reach on an error, and then I think a couple hit by pitches as well. As Manaea was obviously not a perfect game, but did not allow a clean hit. I mean, that's the whole adage in baseball, is the fact that the first hit of the game, I believe that was in the 5th inning when Leon hit that pop-up out in shallow left center field where Simeon went after it, kind of was trying to make a over-the-shoulder catch. Would have been a nice play. I mean, it is a play you see big league shortstops make a lot. But, I mean, if you look at the rules of Major League Baseball, what constitutes an error versus a hit is they take an extraordinary if it was a routine play. A real error is something that is a routine play that was made. They make an error on that. They make an error whether it's an errant throw or just booted a ground ball, dropped a pop up. I mean, it's a routine. It's what's deemed routine. However, like I said, there's an adage that the first hit in a no hitter, or her first hit in the ball game, especially when you have a no hitter going, I believe he was already into the 5th inning, should be a clean base hit. Whether it's an infield hit. I know we saw, I think last week in Arizona, the Giants were on the verge of being no hit by Patrick Corbin, and Brandon Belt hit a check swing ground ball to the third base side with a shift, and the guy had a third baseman had run over and get it, and Belt beat it out because it's a clean hit. He beat out the throw. The fielder was able to go try and make a play, and Belt just beat throws an infield single. It's a clean hit, no error. There was just the way it was. This one was a little different where Simeon was trying to go out there, and the ball just hit off the heel of his glove as he was turning to make the catch out in shallow left center. And the official score, and that's the thing about official scoring, is that it's kind of a guy's mystery in Major League Baseball how these official scorers work. And they are hired by baseball, I believe, but they do stay in one stadium their entire time. They don't really leave, and they're pretty mysterious in the fact that they're not really identified as well at any point, and they can kind of make it. I know I was listening to some of the stuff talking with the Giants broadcasters who were talking about the no hitter and the fact that they've had games in Colorado where you've had 4 different plays scored 4 different ways, where none of them were head scratchers, conundrums. So I mean, these official scorers are in no way perfect. And it's quite objective in the fact that they can kind of just decide as well as they can if something was deemed a hit or an error. So that's pretty much the biggest deal they have to do, is deeming a hit or an error. And there's a bunch of baseball analytics guys. I know Brian Kenny on MLB Network is the guy who's like, okay, let's just get rid of the error. The error is silly. We get rid of that. I don't know what you'd replace it with, but there has to be some sort of stat. I mean, if a guy gets on base, you can't. I mean, it is hurting and helping people's batting averages. I mean, this is the thing that we're talking about. Is also not only does it create or disallow no hitters from happening, very rarely, but it on a bigger scale, and the official score can affect people's batting averages and affect different things when it comes to earned runs. So if somebody gets on base via an error, that if they come around to score, that run's unearned because they got on base via an error. If somebody scores via an error, then that run is unearned because they scored via an error. It was not earned. It was not earned through a base hit. So it can affect all these different stats, whether it's batting average, fielding percentage, obviously, and ERA. So this is a very specific job that these official scorers have to do, but it's very objective in the fact that they can kind of just decide whatever they want. They can make their own interpretation of the rules that are laid out there. I mean, there are rules. Obviously, baseball has a tendency to have very ill-defined rules, not very specific, as most sports kind of sometimes do, where you do have a lot of discretionary issues. I mean, we're going to get into that when it comes to discretionary stuff in just a second here when we're talking about, as we continue talking about this no-hitter in Oakland. But on that one, in my best opinion, watching that highlight multiple times, that was a hit. I'm sorry. It hit off the tip of his glove. I know if it maybe didn't touch him at all, then it would have been obviously been a hit. But Simeon was about 50 feet from his position at shortstop out into the left center field. Both the center fielder and the left fielder had no chance of catching that ball as they were playing. They were running hard in. But no, that was only the shortstop's play, and he couldn't make it. But it would have been a great play. It would have been an extraordinary play. I'm using that word because that's what's in the rule book. It wouldn't have been a Gold Glove web gem. It would have been a nice play, but that's the whole point. Is it wasn't a out of the ordinary, extraordinary play, not routine pop up such a scenario that would have been deemed a routine play. Because if it was routine, like a pop up right to the shortstop, right in his position within 20 feet of his position where he was, then and he drops it, yeah, sure, error. Because he probably would have got underneath it, but it popped out of his glove. But this one, he was on the run, his back to the infield, and he was turning and hit the pocket of his glove and bounced out. So they could have. I mean, I do understand though that it would have been the first hit of the game, and it wasn't a clean one. So in that respect, I will give him that. I kind of understand. So I'm more 50-50 on this whole thing, anyways. But if there already had been a hit in the game, if there already had been a hit in the game, that would have been ruled a hit. I guarantee you, stone cold lock. No ifs, ands, or buts. But the fact that it would have been the first hit of the game into the fifth inning and broken up the guy's no-hitter, the official scorer quickly ruled that E6. All right. So continuing on, like I said before, I was saying there's lots of objectiveness. There's also objectiveness, obviously, when it comes to umpiring. That's what actually happens much more often. Every single play, there is an objective thing. I know every television station now has the little box around it's called the K zone on ESPN, I believe. But now pretty much even all the local stations that air the games on a daily basis for baseball have these little boxes there with the laser technology in order to locate the pitch when it crosses the plate, and you could tell if it was a ball or a strike according to the rule book with this box. And this actually is also how umpires are graded by Major League Baseball after games. Home plate umpires they're graded by that. You could tell there's been a lot of conversation about that, but how interesting these umpire strike zones are, calling pitches that are clearly outside the box strikes, in some of them that are on the corner or maybe even a little bit inside the box, not balls. So I mean, this is kind of explaining as more and more to go on. Maybe we'll have a little show. I'll talk about how I feel about the whole robo umpire. I still feel like there should be some sort of human element in the game. I think it's a big part of the game when it comes to pitching. Myself being a pitcher, you definitely have to work the umpire, the pitch to his strike zone, which is just it's part of the game, honestly. I remember doing that when you had a game. I'd have a game where the guy was giving me a low strike. You just use that. The guy's not giving you a low strike a game. Gotta find something else. Maybe he's giving you a little more width on the plate. So you could always find something to exploit to help yourself get through there. If you got a tight zone, then you better start throwing strikes, pitch to contact, use your other pitches. So you got to figure it out. That's kind of all encompassing how pitchers are created. And on Saturday, Sean Manaea was doing that. He had a good. Hunter Windelstedt was the home plate umpire on Saturday in Oakland. He had a good real repertoire. Sometimes when you go to throw a no hitter, you're gonna have a good little bet in between you and the home plate umpire. And what I'm saying is that you're throwing pitches. When you release that ball, you see the catcher call it. You're like, okay, strike, and boom, he's gonna call you a strike. You're kind of have a little on the same page here, where you're locating your pitches where he's gonna call those pitches strikes. Where you got a good little back. Not that you're gonna talk to him at all. You're not gonna say anything to the umpire, but this little subliminal message, not messages, but just like, you guys are, he just happens to be calling where you're throwing it on the corner. He's calling a strike. He's maybe giving you a little wider zone on the outside or up and down. So for the pitcher, obviously a bigger zone is going to help you. So Hunter Windelstedt and Sean Manaea had a good little thing going on Saturday. Just the way it worked out, I guess. He also was pretty darn nasty as well. His curveball was absolutely disgusting on Saturday night. So But continue on with the umpires. There was another play, not just the pop-up. There was another play, and Andrew Benintendi hit a slow roller up the first baseline, and Olson, the first baseman for the A's, grabbed it and made a play to lunge and tag Benintendi as he was running past him up the first baseline, and Benintendi veered out of the way to avoid the tag and ended up going into the grass on the other side of the line. I know people were like, oh, there's that whole running lane in first base, but actually that's different. The running lane has to do with a runner being, you have to stay in the running lane, and if you get hit with the ball, like so if you bunt, say you bunt, and the catcher grabs the ball and throws it to first base up the line, and it hits the runner in the back, if he's in that running lane, he's good, but if he's out of that running lane, he's out. That's what the rule with the whole running lane situation is at first base. The rule when it comes to in the baseline, quote-unquote in the baseline, because Benintendi actually ended up being ruled out. He was called safe originally because Olson did not tag him because he was able to avoid the tag and get around and touch first with his left hand as he dove around him. But he was actually ruled out because what the rule is, you have 3 feet on each side of you. Once the fielder has the ball and is going to make a tag, the baseline is then described from where you are to straight line to the base, and you have about 3 feet on each side of you. So once he veered out of that 3 feet that he was given, regardless of that little running lane line in the first baseline, no matter wherever Benintendi was, when Olson fielded the ball, that's where then you draw that straight line to the base, and you have 3 feet on each side. So the umpires deemed that he went out of that 3 feet, which is kind of an invisible discretionary thing the umpires have to figure out themselves. And he was deemed to go outside 3 feet, and was then called out, which actually was quite surprising to me and everybody else I was watching the game with, because it was pretty close. I mean, he did look like he went over 3 feet out of his defined baseline. Like I said, that running lane, if you go watch the highlight, he went out of the chalk, he went out of the running lane. That has nothing to do with that. That only has to do with if a runner gets hit by a throw coming up the line, like on a bunt or on a drop third strike or something like that, when he's running and the catcher has to throw it up the line. And if he's in that running lane that hits him in the back, then he's fine. If he's out of the running lane and hits him in the back, then he's out. You see a lot of guys run up the inside on the grass, running to first base to try and block off that catcher's throw. But if you're a catcher, you're a good catcher, just hit him. Just hit him with the ball and he'll be called out because he's not in that running lane. However, this had nothing to do with that. It was the fact that Benintendi had defined his baseline once Olson grabbed the ball, and when he veered out of that baseline by 3 feet, and 3 feet's not that far, it's only a yard basically. Once he veered out of that at all, the umpires deemed that he was out of the baseline and then ruled out. So that's the rules when it comes to baselines versus at first base, because first base is the only bag that has that chalk line. So just kind of a little rule 101 right there. When it comes to that chalk, I know a lot of people, even the television, it's like, he went out of the chalk line. On ESPN, they're like, he went out of the chalk line. It doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with it. It was the fact that he veered 3 feet away from that defined line that he created himself when he was starting to run on first base, when he was trying to avoid the tag from Olson. We've seen a lot of other stuff, I know, past the years where we've had people trying to avoid tags where it really looked like they went over that 3 feet, their 3 foot threshold, but it looked like that the umpires were definitely on top of that one, calling it the fact that he went over 3 feet, and it was close, but it looked like he did actually extend that baseline a little too far to be liked. All right, so that's the no-hitter. We had our first no-hitter of the year, Sean Manaea. Congratulations to him, the guy from Indiana, no-hit the best team in the league. Chris Sale was a tough luck loser, as he actually pitched pretty well as himself. I'll give you the lines for both pitchers. Chris Sale did go 7 innings, allowed 3 runs on 6 hits, walked 1, struck out 10. Did give up a home run to Marcus Semien. It was his second. That was in the 5th inning. Marcus Semien, his second home run. And then Sean Manaea, the no-hitter, who threw the no-hitter, did no hits, no runs, 2 walks, did strike out 10 to match Chris Sale there, and he did go the distance in 9 to get the no-hitter. So the A's, good for them as they get the first. Their lefty there gets the first no-hitter of 2018. All right, that's going to end it for this second segment here in the GSMC Baseball Podcast. I have been your host, Tom Dougherty. As we're going to come into the next segment, we're talking about some teams that are making some good runs, making some good starts to the season. I know I kind of highlighted it to the Phillies. We're going to definitely one of them. We'll probably talk about the Twins, talk about the Pirates, talk about all the different teams that are up in the top of their respective divisions as of now, and that maybe some other teams that are disappointing as we start the season off. And we'll see if this long Major League Baseball season will shake out the cream the cream will rise to the crop. The cream will rise to the top as we get through this Major League Baseball season. Or we're going to see some teams that maybe not were expected to play this well continue to sustain that success throughout the rest of this season. All right, we'll be right back with all of that.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
All right, welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, segment number 3. Segment, we did go over the no-hitter, and I kind of got a little nerdy when it comes to rules, but rules are rules, and the way they were interpreted on Saturday ended with the no-hitter, and Sean Manaea also pitched pretty well. Just kidding, he actually pitched very rare. It was great. It was one of the best starts I've seen in a long time. Especially to that lineup. He was just absolutely lights out to get some help. But, I mean, that's the spirit of baseball, I think, right there when it comes to no-hitters. You do help. I mean, not the umpires. They're supposed to be subjective. I mean, you got to keep it even there. But when you got a guy that's with a special night going like Sean Manaea had, it seemed like the cards were going to fall into his favor. And then there's also some guys who are like, oh, no-hitters are all luck. He didn't do anything, blah, 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 whatever. I don't get off your soapbox. Go watch some, go look at your BABIP or your WHIP or WHIP's actually a good stat, but WAR or BWAR, I'm just talking about all these new sabermetric stats that are out there. I mean, some of them are okay, but BABIP, you know what BABIP means? BABIP means batting average on balls in play. That means basically how lucky you are. Are you good at hitting the ball not to people? Or do you not strike out that much? I mean, that's actually good. That's only a good indication is that maybe you don't strike out that much. But you can also look at strikeout rate. That's another good stat. But no, BABIP basically means if you put the ball in play, are you good at making sure you didn't hit it to anybody? Or the guy didn't make a great play? I can ask you how good Nick Hundley for the Giants, his BABIP is. He's hit about every ball in this season he's hit hard, but they're right at people. So his BABIP probably isn't that good. BABIP. Stupid. All right. That was my rant for the segment. All right. Philadelphia Phillies. Got to give you some props. Sitting at 7 games, over 500. Giving the Mets a run for their money. Squashing those Nationals into 4th place in the NL East. Is also the Atlanta Braves. We'll get to them too. They're 4 games over 500. But the Phillies have won 4 in a row. Just came off a sweep of the Pittsburgh Pirates, who also had a good start to the season. They still over 500, but the Phillies won yesterday. Actually, well, they obviously won all those games, but they won yesterday and Saturday. I didn't actually go. I missed my Aaron Nola. I love Aaron Nola. what a pitcher. Great pickup for the Phillies. Good young arm. Good young right-hander. And obviously they have Rhys Hoskins, who is also a fellow Sacramento guy, just like me. But he had a great season. He's already hit his 4th home run of the year. He hit his 4th home run on Saturday. But I'm going to go over Aaron Nola's line. I kind of went right over that. He had a great start on Saturday for the Phillies. Went 7 innings, only allowed 2 runs on 6 hits, struck out 9. Did give up a home run to Sean Rodriguez. But that was pretty much his only blip on the radar as he lowered his ERA to 2.30. He's got absolutely nasty stuff. It's 9 strikeouts. His strikeout rate probably is pretty nice. Strikeout to walk ratio right there. We only did not walk any in that game on Saturday. So Phillies got that win there, and they continue to roll on as they have those young bats. They've won in pretty much every fashion possible. I don't think they had a walk-off yesterday, actually, out there against the Pirates, as it was the Battle of Philadelphia. We got 2 battles of Philadelphia going on. One actually ended. If you're anybody who's paying attention to the NHL playoffs, quick hockey note: the Flyers and Pittsburgh Penguins, Philadelphia Flyers and Pittsburgh Penguins played in the first round this year. So I'm just a little bit of a Philadelphia, all Pennsylvania series on both ends. But yeah, looks like the Phillies, you get that walk-off. They played 11 innings yesterday. I think I talked about it maybe in the first segment. Did I forget that one? But I know it was Aaron Altier did get a single with a runner at third, put it through the drawn in infield on the left side, and got the Phillies another win, as the Phillies now are 9-1 at the bank. They're 9-1 at Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. That's their home park, as they continue to impress. It's not only are they hitting, they're also pitching, as they got a guy by the name of Jimmy Pivetta, who pitched very well yesterday out there, as Pivetta went 6 and a third innings, allowed 2 runs on 5 hits, did walk 2, but struck out 7. Another nice performance there for a young Phillies pitcher. And obviously they got old Jake Arrieta as well, who's had 2 very nice starts in a Phillies uniform. I think we went over his start on Friday. I think he pitched on Thursday. Did they sweep the 4-game series against their in-state rivals? Not in the same division, mind you, but they are. Yes, it was a 4-game series. They won all 4 out there in Philly at Citizens Bank Park. Arrieta did go toe to toe with Jamison Tyone. A well build start. We talked about it on Friday. But it did not end that way, as the Phillies actually did shut them out. I kind of gushed about my love for Jake Arrieta on Friday as well. So good for the Phillies. When you got a nice lineup, you got a young lineup. We'll see if they can keep it going over the rest of the season. When you got a young lineup like that, the whole sustaining thing can come into question. Obviously, can they keep it going the rest of the season? So it's always going to be a question. We can look at their schedule coming up here and who they're looking at coming up. They do play in the National League East. They're going to have to play the Mets and the Nationals a lot. But look at they did just come off of a couple. So if you look at their last few games, they just had a series with the Marlins. Took 2 out of 3 from the Marlins. Swept the Reds. You better do that. Swept the Rays. You better do that too. And they did drop 2 out of 3 to the Braves in Atlanta. And then sweep the Pirates. So they got some games coming up here. They got to go to, and they're going to come home, or could stay at home actually this week, and welcome in the D-backs starting tomorrow. So that'll be a test for them at home to face the top team in the NL West. And then they're going to host the Braves, and then go back on the road and play the Marlins and Nationals. And they'll come home and play the Giants for 4 to start off May. So, their schedule is not looking too tough yet. They're going to have a little stretch at the end of May, middle of June, where it's going to be testing. Madison Bumgarner looks like he's going to come back for the Giants late in May, so he'll be back for that series, as they're going to have to go. They're going to play the Braves at home, Blue Jays at home. They're going to have to go to LA for 4, play the Giants, and then go to Chicago after being in San Francisco for 3 over the weekend. So, and then go home for Brewers and Rockies. So, and then go back on the road for Brewers and back on the road for the Brewers. So, that end of May, beginning of June, schedule is where it's going to toughen up for the Phillies, and we'll see. That's going to be the main question mark. Is it maybe after that little marker we'll say after that. Well, actually, it isn't. The whole month of June is pretty tough, as they're going to play the Giants, Cubs, Brewers twice, Rockies, Cardinals, Nationals twice, and the Yankees. So after June, basically, once you hit July 2nd, we'll see where the Phillies record is at that point, because they have had a little bit of a easy go of it to start off the season. As a bunch of teams that are under 500, they were able to have a few series against them. But no, it's going to toughen up a little bit now. They'll go back, play the Nationals. They'll have a couple games with the Orioles coming up. But then after that, the end of May and all of June pretty much is going to be against teams that are going to be in contention for playoff spots come the end of the season. So the Phillies are going to be tested. That young lineup is going to be tested throughout the month. All right. Another team we're going to go over is the same division, actually, Atlanta Braves. They did not. Did they have? Let's see. What did they do this weekend? I went over their games a little bit this weekend. They played out. I think they played. Yeah, they played at home against the Mets. They were not able to play yesterday due to some weather. So, the weather still, as you can tack on another one to that old postponed game, as they will actually have a doubleheader, it looks like, with the Mets come Memorial Day weekend. So, the Mets and the Braves, Atlanta Braves, will make up that series. But, yeah, they had that series they finished off that series. They were able to finish it off, but they did have it go on Friday and Saturday against the Mets. As they were able to, they got that one late, actually. They got the one against the Mets on Saturday. But other than that, they have to keep that going. I mean, there are 4 games that are over 500. They dropped the one. They actually started that series on Thursday. They took 2 out of 3 of a 4-game series. They weren't able to get that 4th one in, but they were able to win on Thursday, winning that one 12-4. I think we went over that one. That was the Matt Harvey start, where he did not fare too well, where he started he was decided. That's another story we'll probably talk about coming up this next segment in a little bit. The fact that Matt Harvey is headed to the bullpen. I know I've talked about the fact that he started off the season fine. I said, okay, he's going to be fine. He's sitting in the middle of that rotation. He's going to be protected by Syndergaard and by Jake DeGrom. So, I mean, he's not going to have the big stage on him, the big spotlight in New York on him, but it didn't matter. He lasted all of 5 starts, and he's in the bullpen now. So, I think he actually pitched again on where did he pitch again? He pitched on Thursday. I thought I saw his name again where he got a loss, but yeah, he got a loss on Thursday, 12-4. And then on Friday and Saturday, they split those 2 games over the weekend, so not able to play on Sunday. All right, but yeah, and let's look at the rest of that Braves schedule, see how theirs going to shake out. Like I said, teams are going to have to get going over this long haul as we come to the summertime. It looks like they got a big 4-game series with the Reds coming up on the road. Probably should be fine there. They're going to go to Philadelphia, play the Phillies. That'll be a nice series to watch next weekend. I'll talk about that probably a week from today, as they'll finish up that series on next Sunday, and then they go to New York to play the Mets again. And they're going to come home for one series, and host the Giants over the weekend just for one series homestand. Interesting. And they go back on the road for a little short homestand and a little short road trip in Florida. They're going to play the Rays 2 games in a 4-game series against the Marlins. And then one of those games, I think we saw it a couple of years ago. We'll probably talk about it as it gets closer. But we saw it a couple of years ago where the Reds played a home game, but they played it in San Francisco. Because some of these teams, if you're not a division rival or a division team, you only play each other once on the road, once at home. That's how it works. And then it's offset. It's off balance schedule. You play your division rivals all like multiple 3 or 4 series each, home and road. But for those teams that are not in your division, you only play them once at home and once on the road. So the Cubs and the Braves had a game rained out in Wrigley. So it looks like the Cubs are actually going to have a home game. Unless the Braves are they're going to go to Wrigley for one game, it looks like. Well, that's what it shows me. And then they're going to come back to – both teams are going to come back to Atlanta and play a 3-game series. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Atlanta Braves – but their schedule toughens up a little bit more at the end of that of June or end of May. And then throughout June, they're going to have – there'll be little sprinklings here and there of tough teams and – easy teams, honestly. As I just kind of look at their schedule, we'll see if they can sustain it as well. They have the young talent as well. Maybe not as much as the pitching as the Phillies have with Nola and Arrieta, but if Mike Foltynewicz can keep going along with Julio Teheran, and they can keep hitting, that's basically all you need. They got the bullpen for it. So Braves and Phillies are those two teams that have started off pretty hot, and we'll see if they can keep it going. Both in that AL East, as they're going to keep it. That was the Nationals. That was their division to run away with. If the Nationals have a tough season, we'll see if Bryce Harper even wants to come back there. So that's going to end it for this segment. I know these segments have kind of pushed back. We're already flying through this episode here of this GSMC Baseball Podcast. We're going to do a quick preview of what's coming up on today and Tuesday. And then to get you ready for the start of some series coming up in Major League Baseball. We'll do that when we come back.
Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
All right, welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast. Final segment here. We're going to do a quick preview of the week, Monday, Tuesday, before our show on Wednesday. We'll talk about those games that we're going to talk about right now. We're going to preview them now. We're going to talk about them on Wednesday, as we're going to have a little limited slate. Like I said, Monday and Thursdays are those games where some teams will have their off days. We're going to have 9 games coming up today in the baseball world. Giants are going to host the Nationals. It'll be Chris Stratton against Gio Gonzalez out there in the City by the Bay. I'll be actually at that game. It'll be fun. Going out to the Giants. I'll love going out to AT&T Park to watch some baseball. All right, and then in Cincinnati, it'll be Mike Foltynewicz going for the Braves against Sal Romano, as Foltynewicz looks to improve on his nice little 2.53 ERA. He's got 26 strikeouts. Did struggle a little bit with his fastball command, as he does sometimes. He's a little bit of wildness, but he's looking for his second win, as Romano for the Reds is looking for his first of the year out in the Bronx. It's going to be Jake Odorizzi against Masahiro Tanaka, as the Twins and Yankees will start a series off there in New York. Tanaka looking to right the ship a little bit. He's going to have his 5th start of the season. Has been kind of up and down, a little bit of good, a little bit of bad, as he's 2-2 now with a 6.45 ERA. And there's Odorizzi, who's looking for his second win of the year. The guy the Twins got over from Tampa Bay. He's now 3.38 ERA with a 1-1 record. All right, in Baltimore, Carlos Carrasco and Kevin Gausman. Carrasco's been very nice for the Cleveland Indians, 3-0 with a 2.6 ERA, as he continues to pitch pretty well, looking to extend his streak of quality starts. Out in Texas, it's going to be Trevor Cahill against Matt Moore for the Rangers. Trevor Cahill going for the A's. He's now back in the green and gold in Oakland, where the team where he started, actually, the team he came up with. Now, he got a nice start in his first game, getting his first win. Didn't allow a run, actually, as he pitched 7 scoreless against the White Sox last Tuesday. Matt Moore for the Rangers, not so much, as he was given over. Giants pretty much gave him up for, I think, cash or draft pick or whatever, nothing much. But the Rangers needed some arms in the starting rotation, as he's going to be looking for his second start to get his first win of the season. last week, as he only allowed one unearned run. Pitched pretty well against the Rays last Tuesday, but he hasn't pitched pretty well at home. That was in Tampa, his last start. He hasn't looked pretty good. Hasn't looked very good in Texas. All right, big series is coming up this week. This week is the two top teams in the AL West will go out of the two teams over 500. It's the Angels and the Astros in Houston. We're going to have Tyler Skaggs, the lefty, who's right now sitting at an ERA under 4, 3.98 ERA with a 2-1 record, 21 strikeouts, going against the vaunted right-hander, the acquisition over the offseason, Garrett Cole, guy I've been talking about all year long. He's 2-0 with a sub-1 ERA. He's right on there at .96 with 41 strikeouts over his 4 starts of the season, as he's gone 7 innings at least in each of his 4 starts, only allowing just 3 earned runs, all on homers, which means he's not letting hits stack up on him. He's maybe just one little mistake of guys be able to poke it over the fence, but no big innings for Garrett Cole there as he continues to look to roll on. But against a tough Angels lineup who is looking pretty cheated, as they were only able to get one at home against the Giants over the weekend. All right. In Chicago, Mariners White Sox, there'll be Mike Leake against Miguel Gonzalez over there in the Central. That's a West Central showdown. Both teams. Actually, the Mariners are looking over 500 as well. So I was a little mistaken there. There's a few teams going over 500 in the AL West. An NL West showdown. Brian Mitchell for the Padres, Chad Bettis for the Rockies. Chad Bettis has been very nice over his last few starts, only giving up 1 run on 8 hits in 14 1/3 innings. He's 3-0 in the season with a 1.44 ERA, 15 strikeouts. Mitchell, on the other hand, not so much, as he looks to get his first win of the season. He's 0-2 with an ERA just over 5. And in the final game on Monday, today, it'll be Jarlene Garcia, who's pitched very nicely. And he has barely been hittable, as he's had 10 straight hitless innings in the 5th. He had a streak of 10 straight hitless innings as he was moving from the bullpen to the starting rotation. Now he's 1-0 with a .86 ERA, 13 strikeouts, as he will go against the Dodgers, as they're going to have a guy come and make his trip. It looks like they're going to bring out a guy from AAA. It's going to be Walker Buehler for the Dodgers going in Miami, going against the Marlins in Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. It's his first start of the season, as he did have 3 starts in AAA for the Dodgers AAA team, as he'll be making his debut today for Los Angeles. Okay, now Tuesday, all 15 games, full slate of baseball on Tuesday coming up, as we'll have Tanner Roark for the Nationals against Ty Block for the Giants out in San Francisco as they continue their series. Marco Gonzalez against Carson Fulmer for the Mariners and the White Sox as they continue that one over there on the south side. The Cubs and Indians will start a series on Tuesday in Cleveland. It'll be Tyler Chatwood looking for his first win of the season against Josh Tomlin, who is also looking for his first win of the season for the Indians. In the Bronx, that series continues with Jose Berrios matched up against CC Sabathia. Good, cool little start there, as it's going to be young versus the old out in the Bronx. Yankees and Twins. The series out in Cincinnati will continue. Braves and Reds. Actually, that one looks like it's actually just going to be getting started, right? I went over the Braves and their schedule coming up. So, yeah, they're going to get that series started out there in Cincinnati. It's going to be McCarthy versus Tyler Mahle. Brandon McCarthy pitching very nicely for the Braves, as he's 3-0 with a 2.91 ERA. The Reds just can't really seem to get anything good going, especially in their rotation, as Mahle now is 1-3. All right, in Philadelphia, it's going to be the Diamondbacks and the Phillies. Robbie Ray, the lefty, going against Vince Velasquez for the Phillies, another good right-handed starter for the Phillies there, as they just have guys who throw bullets out there in Philadelphia. All right, Robbie Ray is 2-0 with an ERA just under 5. Has pitched pretty well in his last 3 outings. Gets a lot of run support, as that Diamondbacks lineup likes to score runs. They're 15-6 on the season, looking pretty good. But they're going against a team who is also well over 500 at 14-7. Talked about them a lot in the last segment. The Phillies, Vince Velasquez is 1-2 with a 3.8 ERA. He has 24 strikeouts in the season. Robbie Ray actually has 32 strikeouts as well. So both guys racking up the Ks. All right, in Detroit, we're going to Jordan Zimmerman against Chad Kuhl as I have our interleague series for the week. Tigers and Pirates, both Central Division teams, going to be looking to get back on the winning side of the things. Pittsburgh coming off of a 4-game sweep in Philadelphia as Chad Kuhl looked to get his team back in the win column. He's 2-1 with a 4.57 ERA, 16 strikeouts. Zimmerman looking to get his season back on track as his ERA has ballooned up to 7.71. I mean, he's hasn't taken a loss yet due to some nice little no decisions he's been able to get, but he's 1-0, but he only has 18 strikeouts on the year. All right, continuing on here. In Tampa Bay, it's going to be Jake Faria and Alex Cobb for the Rays and the Orioles. Cobb for the Orioles, who actually used to be on the Rays, pitching against his former team, and Jake Faria for the Rays going out there in Camden Yards up in the north of the border in Canada. It's going to be Rick Porcello and Jay Happ going at it. Porcello coming off a great start in his last one against... he didn't pitch against the A's. His last start was against some... Actually, I think it was when the Red Sox kind of went on that winning streak last week. I went over that whole series last week. Yeah, it was against the Angels when they went into Anaheim and swept the Angels. All right, continuing on Tuesday, it's going to be him against Jay Happ out there in Toronto. All right, continuing on here as we get these last few games, it's going to be Triggs against Hamels. Cole Hamels, Andrew Triggs, and Cole Hamels as that series continues out in Texas. A's and Rangers. Isn't that the other AL West? The other AL West matchup is going to be Showtime in Houston as the Astros will get their first look at Shohei Ohtani, and the Angels will actually get a good look at Charlie Morton, who's pitched even better than Ohtani has. He's 3-0 with a sub-1 ERA, .72 ERA, 33 strikeouts. Ohtani sitting at 2-1 with a 3.60 ERA, 19 strikeouts. In Kansas City, another interleague matchup actually going on this week. Zach Davies against Ian Kennedy is another two Central Division foes, or not Central Division foes, but just happening both in Central Division. Brewers and Royals out there in Kansas City. Mets and Cardinals, always a good little matchup is going to be going on in St. Louis. Zach Wheeler against Luke Weaver. Get those differentiated there. And then it's going to be a NL West Division matchup. Padres and Rockies continue their series. Padres actually haven't even announced the starter yet for Tuesday, but Kyle Freeland will be going for the Rockies out there in Denver, and then the Miami Marlins and the Dodgers will be continuing their series. Dylan Peters against Kenta Maeda in Dodger Stadium out at Chavez Ravine, as they like to be called it, out there in Los Angeles. All right, big packed show for everybody today, as we'll be continuing on Wednesday with probably a recap of the games I just talked about, and some more stories going on throughout Major League Baseball. There's always stuff going on. Maybe we'll get another no-hitter. Maybe we'll have a 22-pitch at bat. No, you never know. So we'll talk about that on Wednesday. And until then, everybody enjoy their baseball. And it's been good talking to you. So go out, watch some baseball, and enjoy all the good stuff that's happening in Major League Baseball right now. So until Wednesday, have a good time.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.